Anyways, I don't know what is up. After we traveled with the ring light, I don't feel like I can ever put it in correctly. The phone on the ring light. Anyways, hey, how y'all doing? We moved the beanbags downstairs for the Super Bowl. Have a couple extra seats, and now they're back up here, but they're not the right shape. And they will be. They'll get back to it. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? It's good to be with y'all. What's today? We're on a Tuesday, and it's been a good Tuesday. We had work today, rested before that, got some stuff done. Wanted to do a video earlier but didn't, and that's okay. I'm gonna do one now. What else? I don't know. Let's get into it. We were on chapter 29, Cockneys. Y'all, I don't know why the beanbags bother me so much. We're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna readjust. Oh, here we go. That could be part of it. It's like a handle. I think if you do it like that, and then that. Oh my God. I don't even know why that makes a difference. Could be mental. Probably mental. Maybe not mental. But who cares? I'm comfortable now. Thank y'all for giving me a minute to adjust. Then there is the steam engine style of driving. These drivers were mostly people from towns who never had a horse of their own and generally traveled by rail. They always seemed to think that a horse was something like a steam engine, only smaller. At any rate, they think that if only they pay for it, a horse is bound to go just as far and just as fast and with just as heavy a load as they please. And by the roads, heavy and muddy or dry and good, be they stony or smooth, uphill or downhill, it is all the same. On, one must go at the same pace with no relief and no consideration. These people never think of getting out to walk up a steep hill. Oh no, they have paid to ride, and ride they will. The horse? Oh, he's used to it. What were horses made for, if not to drag? If not to drag people uphill, walk. A good joke indeed. And so the whip is plied, and the rein is chucked, and often a rough scolding voice cries out, "Go along, you lazy beast!" And then another slash of the whip, when all the time we were doing our best, our very best, to get along, uncomplaining and obedient, though often sorely harassed and downhearted. This steam engine style of driving wears us up faster than any other kind. I would far rather go 20 miles with a good, considerate driver than I would go 10 with some of these. It would take less out of me. Another thing, they scarcely ever put on the drag, however steep the downhill may be, and thus bad accidents sometimes happen. Or if they do put it on, they often forget to take it off at the bottom of the hill. And more than once I have had to pull halfway up the next hill with one of those wheels lodged fast in the drag shoe, before my driver chose to think about it, and that is a terrible strain on a horse. Then these cockneys, instead of starting at an easy pace as a gentleman would do, generally set off at a full speed from the very stable yard, and when they want to stop, they whip us and then pull up so suddenly that we are nearly thrown on our haunches and our mouths jagged with the bit. They call that pulling up the dash. And when they turn a corner, they do it as sharply as if there were no right side or wrong side of the road. I well remember one spring evening, I and Rory had been out for the day. Rory was the horse that most went with me when a pair was ordered, and a good, honest fellow he was. We had our own driver, and as he was always considerate and gentle with us, we had a very pleasant day. We were coming home at a good smart pace about twilight. Our road turned sharp to the left, but as we were close to the hedge on our own side, and there was plenty of room to pass, our driver did not pull us in. As we neared the corner, I heard a horse and two wheels coming rapidly down the hill towards us. The hedge was high, and I could see nothing, but the next moment we were upon each other. Happily for me, I was on the side next to the hedge. Rory was on the side of the pole, and had not even a shaft to protect him. The man who was driving was making straight for the corner, and when he came in sight of us, he had no time to pull over to his own side. The whole shock came upon Rory. The gig shaft ran right into his chest, making him stagger back with a cry that I shall never forget. The other horse was thrown upon his haunches, and one shaft broken. It turned out that it was a horse from our own stables, with the high-wheeled gig, and that young men were so fond of. The driver was one of these random ignorant fellows who don't even know which is their own side of the road, or if they know, don't care. And there was poor Rory with his flesh torn open and bleeding, and the blood streaming down. They said if it had been a little more to one side, it would have killed him. And a good thing for him, poor fellow, if it had. As it was a long time before the wound healed, and then he was sold for coal carting. And what that is, up and down those steep hills, only horses know. Some of the sights I saw there were where a horse had to come downhill with a heavy load two-wheel cart behind him, on which no drag could be placed, made me sad even to think of. After Rory was disabled, I often went in the carriage with a mare named Peggy, who stood in the next stall to mine. She was a strong, well-made animal of a bright dun color, beautifully dappled, and with a dark brown mane and tail. There was no high breeding about her, but she was very pretty, and remarkably sweet-tempered and willing. Still, there was an anxious look about her, by which I knew that she had some trouble. The first time we went out together, I thought she had a very odd pace. She seemed to go partly in a trot, partly in a canter, 3 or 4 paces, and then to make a little jump forward. It was very unpleasant for any horse who pulled with her, and made me quite fidgety. When we got home, I asked her what made her go in that odd, awkward way. "Ah," she said in a troubled manner, "I know my paces are very bad, but what can I do? It really is not my own fault. It is just because my legs are so short. I stand nearly as high as you, but your legs are a good 3 inches above your knees than mine. And of course, you can take a much longer step and go much faster. You see, I did not make myself. I wish I could have done so. I would have had long legs then. All my troubles come from my short legs," said Peggy in a desponding tone. "But how is it," I said, "when you are so strong and good-tempered and willing?" "Why, you see," she said, "men will go fast, and if one horse can't keep up to the others, it is nothing but whip, whip, whip all the time. And so I have to keep up as I could and have got this, excuse me. And so I have had to keep up as I could and have gotten to this ugly shuffling pace. It was not always so. When I lived with my first master, I always went a good regular trot, but then he was not in such a hurry. He was a young clergyman in the country, and a good kind master he was. He had 2 churches a good way apart, and a great deal of work, but he never scolded or whipped me for not going faster. He was very fond of me. I only wish I was with him now, but he had to leave and go to a large town, and then I was sold to a farmer. Some farmers, you know, are capital masters, but I think this one was a low sort of man. He cared nothing about good horses or good driving. He only cared for going fast. I went as fast as I could, but that would not do, and he was always whipping. So I got into this way of making a spring forward to keep up. On market nights, he used to stay very late at the inn, and then drive home at a gallop. One dark night, he was galloping home as usual, when all of a sudden the wheel came against some great heavy thing in the road, and turned the gig over in a minute. He was thrown out, and his arm was broken, and some of his ribs, I think. At any rate, it was the end of my living with him, and I was not sorry. But you see, it will be the same everywhere for me, if men must go fast. I wish my legs were longer. Poor Peggy. I was very sorry for her, and I could not comfort her, for I knew how hard it was upon slow-paced horses to be put with fast ones. All the whipping comes to their share, and they can't help it. She was often used in the phaeton, and was very much liked by some of the ladies, because she was so gentle. And some time after this she was sold to 2 ladies who drove themselves and wanted a safe, good horse. I met her several times out in the country, going a good steady pace, and looking as gay and contented as a horse could be. I was very glad to see her, for she deserved a good place. After she left us, another horse came in her stead. He was young, and had a bad name for shying and starting, by which he had lost a good place. I asked him what made him shy. Well, I hardly know, he said. I was very timid when I was young, and was a good deal frightened several times, and if I saw anything strange, I used to turn and look at it, you see. With our blinkers on, one can't see or understand what a thing is unless one looks round. And then my master always gave me a whipping, which of course made me start on, and did not make me less afraid. I think if he could have let me just look at things quietly and see what they were, that there was nothing to hurt me, it would have been all right, and I should have gotten used to them. One day an old gentleman was riding with him, and a large piece of white paper or rag blew across just on one side of me. Blew across just on one side of me. I shied and started forward. My master, as usual, whipped me smartly, but the old man cried out, "You're wrong, you're wrong. You should never whip a horse for shying. He shies because he is frightened, and you only frighten him more, and make the habit worse. So I suppose all men don't do so. I am sure I don't want to shy for the sake of it, but how should one know what is dangerous and what is not if one is never allowed to get used to anything? I am never afraid of what I know. Now, I was brought up in a park where there were deer. Of course, I knew them as well as I did a sheep or a cow, but they are not common, and I know many sensible horses who are frightened of them, and who kick up quite a shindy before they will pass a paddock where there are deer. I knew what my companion said was true, and I wish that every young horse had a good master as Farmer Gray and Squire Gordon. Of course, we sometimes come in for good driving here. I remember one morning I was put into the light gig and taken out to a house in Pulteney Street. Two gentlemen came out. The taller of them came round to my head. He looked at the bit and bridle and just shifted the collar with his hand. Excuse me. And just shifted the collar with his hand to see if it fitted comfortably. Do you consider this horse wants a curb? He said to the ostler. Well, said the man, I should say he would go just as well without. He was an uncommon good mouth, and he has an uncommon good mouth, and though he has a fine spirit, he has no vice. But we generally find people like the curb. I don't like it, said the gentleman. Be so good as to take it off, and then put the rein in the cheek. An easy mouth is a great thing on a long journey. Is it not, old fellow? He said, patting my neck. Then he took the reins, and they both got up. I can remember how quietly he turned me round, and then, with a light feel of the rein, and drawing the whip gently across my back, we were off. I arched my neck and set off at my best pace. I found I had someone behind me who knew how a good horse ought to be driven. It seemed like old times again and made me feel quite gay. This gentleman took a great liking to me, and after trying me several times with the saddle, he prevailed upon my master to sell me to a friend of his, who wanted a safe, pleasant horse for riding. And so it came to pass that in the summer I was sold to Mr. Barry. Sorry, just seeing how much we've read and how much is in the next chapter. Oh, a very small chapter. Let's read it. Chapter 30. A Thief. My new master was an unmarried man. He lived at Bath and was much engaged in business. His doctor advised him to take horse exercise, and for this purpose he bought me. He hired a stable a short distance from his lodgings, and engaged a man named Filcher as groom. My master knew very little about horses, but he treated me well, and I should have had a good and easy place, but for circumstances of which he was ignorant. He ordered the best hay with plenty of oats, crushed beans, and bran, with vetches or ryegrass as the man might think needful. I heard the master give the orders, so I knew there was plenty of good food, and I thought I was well off. For a few days, all went on well. I found that my groom understood his business. He kept the stable clean and airy, and he groomed me thoroughly, and was never otherwise than gentle. He had been an ostler in one of the great hotels in Bath. He had given that up, and now cultivated fruit and vegetables for the market, and his wife bred and fattened poultry and rabbits for sale. After a while, it seemed to me that my oats came very short. I had the beans, but the bran was mixed with them instead of oats, of which there were very few, certainly not more than a quarter of what there should have been. In 2 or 3 weeks, this began to tell upon my strength and good spirits. The grass food, though very good, was not the thing to keep my condition without corn. However, I could not complain, nor make known my wants. So it went on for some 2 months, and I wondered my master did not see that something was the matter. However, one afternoon he rode out into the country to see a friend of his, a gentleman farmer who lived on the road to Wells. This gentleman had a very quick eye for horses, and after he had welcomed his friends, he said, casting his eye over to me, "It seems to me, Barry, that your horse does not look so well as he did not when you first had him. Has he been well? Yes, I believe so, said my master, but he is not nearly so lively as he was. My groom tells me that horses are always dull and weak in the autumn, and that I must expect it. Autumn? Fiddlesticks, said the farmer. Why, this is only August, and with your light work and good food, he ought not to go down like this, even in the autumn. How do you feed him? My master told him. The other shook his head slowly and began to fill me over. I can't say who eats your corn, my dear fellow, but I am much mistaken if your horse gets it. Have you ridden very fast? No, very gently. Then just put your horse here, said he, passing his hand over my neck and shoulder. He is as warm and damp as a horse just come up from grass. I advise you to look into your stable a little more. I hate to be suspicious, and thank heaven I have no cause to be, but I can trust my men, present or absent. But there are mean scoundrels, wicked enough to rob a dumb beast of his food. You must look into it. And turning to his man who had come to take me, give this horse a right good feed of bruised oats, and don't stint him. Dumb beast. Yes, we are. But if I could have spoken, I could not have told my master where his oats went to. So they're using dumb not as in stupid as we often see it today, but dumb as in can't speak. I could have, dumb beast, yes we are, but if I could have spoken, I could have told my master where my oats went to. My groom used to come every morning about 6 o'clock, and with him a little boy, who always had a covered basket with him. He used to go with his father into the harness room, where the corn was kept, and I could see them when the door stood ajar, fill a little bag with oats out of the bin, and then he used to be off. 5 or 6 mornings after this, just as the boy had left the stable, the door was pushed open, and a policeman walked in, holding the child tightly by the arm. Another policeman followed and locked the door on the inside, saying, "Show me the place where your father keeps his rabbit's food." The boy looked very frightened and began to cry, but there was no escape, and he led the way to the corn bin. Here the policeman found another empty bag, like that which was found full of oats in the boy's basket. Filcher was cleaning my feet at the time, but they soon saw him, and though he blustered a good deal, they walked him off to the lockup, and his boy with him. I heard afterwards that the boy was not held to be guilty, but the man was sentenced to prison for 2 months. So they found him. The truth will always come out. I'm a firm believer of that. That beauty. Oh, yep. That looks like them stealing the oats. Poor beauty. All right. Next chapter is called A Humbug. Should be fun. Well, I finished it. I had read about half of it last year. See, I'd gotten it for my birthday, and then I'd read part of it during the summer. And I don't know why I dropped off. Just, sometimes time and space, c'est la vie. Very glad I picked it back up. Gorgeous book, exceedingly well written. Full of, black girl magic, to say the least. But yeah, what was it? One of her last things that she put in the acknowledgments that I thought was so beautiful. Love to all queer, trans, and non-binary people of color, especially queer black people. We are magical, y'all. Y'all are. I'm glad there's books out there like this to let y'all know. Anyway, it was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is the bookmark that I used. It's super cute. Let me get up. Make sure you can see. It's got the mushrooms and the rainbows. Anyway, I got this from Indie Heart. She's a local maker around here. Oh, let's get it closer. Oh, I did it. Sort of. Lord Jesus. Anyway, found her at a market. I think the first time I saw her, it was in front of a church that I go to sometimes here. But I've seen her at a couple markets around Jacksonville. Love her bookmarks, her stickers. I mean, her Instagram is great, positive, raising people's voices, raising her own voice. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to give away one of these. So let's see, first person to put rainbow mushroom rainbow, something about a mushroom rainbow mushroom. First person to comment that down in the comments will get one of those bookmarks from her. And I've decided next I'm going to read Queen Sugar by Natalie. And I'm so sorry, I might say this wrong. I literally just picked this one before I started filming. Basil, but I'm going to look up and see if that is how she prefers it to be pronounced. But anyway, it looks really good. Little blurb is, when Charlie Bordelon, an African-American single mother, unexpectedly inherits 800 acres of sugarcane land, she and her 11-year-old daughter say goodbye to the smog and sprawl of Los Angeles and head to the tropical expanse of Louisiana. She soon learns, however, that cane farming is always going to be a white man's business. As the sweltering summer unfolds, Charlie struggles to balance the overwhelming challenges of a farm in decline with the demands of family and the startling desires of her own heart. Sounds good. And I think I bought this at Femfire Books. Cute little bookstore here in town, but super powerful. Really they raise the voice of the female, but they always also raise the voice of people of color. I love going in there. They have a little store on Park Street. Yeah, I think that's where it is. Park Street. And I'm going to be using, they have a bookmark that they give with all their sales, so I'm going to use that one for this book. But excited to get it started and see what it's about. It sounds good. It has dragonflies on it. Beautiful art. The inspiration for the OWN TV series. So there's a TV series based on this book. Let me see if you can see that. Beautiful art. Anyway, thank y'all for sticking around, reading with me tonight. Saw a video earlier. Tabitha Brown. I thought about reading her book next. She's got a new one out, but it looks like it's like a 30-day sort of workbook, like self-help, self-love, try new things. I think it said something about it'll have you trying new foods and having difficult conversations, and it looks good. And if it's by her, it's probably gonna be good. So I looked into getting that one next, but thought, you know, self-help, it'd be more of a personal read, personal journey. But I still want to get that. But then I was scrolling through some of her TikTok videos and saw one that she did recently talking about tiptoeing. And it really touched me. I mean, a lot of her videos, I feel like she is, ooh, I feel myself getting emotional on that. That's okay. She's powerful. The way she brings the word, a word, I don't know if it's the word, but it feels, I don't know. I quite often emotionally connect to her videos where she brings a word, like, and she uses the wording that God put the word on her heart, asked her to bring it. And I don't know if I believe in a God or one true God, or I believe that there's a higher power, and I guess we can look at that as God. But what I do know is now I can't even put words to it. I feel slightly embarrassed. Her vulnerability is powerful, and I feel it, and I feel like, you know, she knows. She knows some good stuff, and she's sharing it with everybody. Not just, you know, how to cook phenomenally good tasting vegan meals, but how to live and be in touch with yourself, and be vulnerable and be yourself. And I mean, her story alone is just about be yourself. That's what people want. And that's really what's going to make you shine. I think people can feel it, you know, feel her, how vulnerable, how real she is. But all that to say, one, other than the fact that I just very much admire her, that her story about tiptoeing and talking about how tiptoeing's not good for your body, but, you know, tiptoeing, you know, physically not good for your body, but if you tiptoe around something, that's not good for you either. It can be toxic to you. It reminded me of a story about tiptoeing, and I don't quite know how the two tie together yet, but I felt strongly that I wanted to tell y'all the story. So there was a child, sweet little thing, in a school where I worked, and they tiptoed, and they were in kindergarten at that point, which I think the age is 3 or 4 when doctors start to say we should take a further look at this. But we had gotten the word that, you know, she just needed to be reminded, just a gentle reminder that I don't think that they wanted to do braces, and I don't think they did braces, but just that it was a habit at that point, and that they were going to be able to break it. But that just a gentle reminder. And I saw some people scold her for it. And she would, when she passed those people, she would oftentimes make sure that she wasn't tiptoeing, but her whole demeanor would drop and her eyes would drop. And then I saw somebody one time, somebody who I hadn't seen fuss at her, and I wondered if they were even helping with it. I saw them notice that she wasn't tiptoeing, and they made the biggest deal of, oh my gosh, look at you not tiptoeing. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my. And every time that this child would come around the corner and see that person, she would drop her head in shame. She would smile, and she would make sure she was walking on flat feet. She would look at that person in the eye, smiling, and that person would notice. And it became more and more infectious in such a good way that not only was she barely tiptoeing, at least that I saw, but so many other people came to stop scolding her and start praising her. And that was such a lesson in connection with others. If we can seek out the good and praise the good, and I felt that myself with others. When others see good in me, I start to see the good in myself. And I want to do better for me too. I think that's really what Tabitha Brown does. She starts her video off like, hey baby, you can tell she might not know you, but she has love for you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate her coming to us and speaking to us and saying, baby, you got some things you need to fix. But you can feel that she loves you anyway. And that makes me want to be a better person. Not just for her, not just for her praise, but for myself. So, thank y'all. What do you say? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Maybe that's how they tie together. Anyway, thank y'all. Thank you, Tabitha Brown, wherever you are, for being such a light in this world. Anyway, I hope y'all have a good day. And if you're not having a good day, I hope you're at least being good to yourself.